Hello, welcome to day 187 of a daily journey to the New Testament in a year. Today we are in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, the Apostle Paul continues to minister to a church who is man-centered, who creates cliques and distinguishes amongst themselves, people who use their Christian liberty to stumble others who are kind of struggling with weak scruples and a host of other issues. Also, they're kind of immoral and they're not too sensitive to the poor. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 1 to 13. Moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be unaware that all our fathers were under the cloud. All passed through the sea. All were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. All ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. So he wants to point out that all the people of God in the Old Testament had the opportunity for salvation, or at the very minimum, they were all participants of God's family. They all saw the same miracles. They all were invited by the same invitation to follow Moses. And so he's going to show that just because you belong to the group doesn't mean individually that the promise of salvation or the benefits and the covenants of God are going to benefit you. People have to make a personal decision. Verse 5, but with most of them, God was not well pleased, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. So even though God wanted to save all of them, invited them all to fellowship with him, received the covenants, he followed them by a pillar of fire by night, cloud by day, not all of them responded. In fact, many of them displeased him. And he's given them a hint that even though they're all belong to the church at Corinth and they hear the Bible, they're all experience baptism, that doesn't mean they're pleasing God. It also means that they may not benefit from the benefits of knowing God and the power of salvation. Verse 6, now these things became our examples. See that? He's calling attention. It's for us, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. And do not become idolaters, as were some of them. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. In other words, they rose up to commit sexual immorality. Nor let us commit sexual immorality, as some of them did. And in one day, 23,000 fell. Nor let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted, and were destroyed by serpents. Nor complain, as some of them also complained, and were destroyed by the destroyer. Now all these things happened to them as examples, and they were written for our admonition. They were written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the ages have come. There's a new covenant, we're in the end times, but their example is for us. If we disobey God and embrace immorality, salvation and the promises of Christ and all the benefits and the power that we hear about may not individually benefit us. 12, therefore, let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. So he calls us to be sober, to really persevere in Christ and trust in him and obeying him. And then he gives an encouragement to those who are going to listen. No temptation has overtaken you except such as common to man. That word temptation is better understood as a trial, a hard time. No trial or hard time has overtaken you except such as common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted or tried beyond what you are able. But with the temptation will also make the way of escape. That word make is the word poieo. He's going to provide. He's going to manufacture the way of escape. And that word escape means a way out or an outcome or an end, meaning a temptation has a duration, but it's going to end. And so God creates endings, outcomes, good outcomes, and an end of a season. And so he calls you and I to determine that we're going to obey God, that instead of turning the glory of God, like the people of God in the desert, and the grace of God into a license to abuse our Christian freedom at the expense of other people and to disobey God. He promises you and I that are going to attempt to obey him, that we will not be tempted beyond what we are able as far as trials, and that he will make a good outcome. There'll be an end to the duration of the trial, so that we can bear under it or persevere through it. Friends, I look forward to finishing the rest of 1 Corinthians chapter 10 with you tomorrow. Until then, may God keep you and bless you.